Hi everyone, welcome back. Michael Sandler here, best-selling author and your host on Inspire Nation. Check out our website where you'll find podcasts, videos, blogs, and more at inspirenationshow.com. Today I am extremely excited to be talking with a true handyman of relationships and prosperity and his book, People Tools for Love and Relationships. You know, it's rare that I pick up a book these days and I can't put it down. Particularly about a topic so seemingly simple, as relationships and love. I'm in trouble. But Alan's book was a page burner, tool after story after story about how you can be a better you, a better us, and find true happiness in the process. I found fantastic advice and reminders in it that I can bring back to my own relationship, and I think you can bring it to yours too, or to help you find that special someone. I think Alan knows a thing or two about relationships as well. He's built a billion-dollar real estate enterprise. He's been married to his wife, Davine, for over 35 years. He's built the nationally renowned Rattle Poetry Journal and the Frida C. Fox Family Foundation, a nonprofit that provides funding to youth education projects. And he's raised a large and loving family. According to his daughter, Sarah Fox, who herself has an MBA and wrote the foreword to the book, Dad's adage has always been, if you can only have one skill in life, it's getting along with others. When I first saw Alan Fox, he was donating $200,000 to an organization that helps fathers' kids. I saw this on YouTube and my jaw just hit the floor. I had to replay it. I'm going, is this right? It was. And he's opened his house up to others. According to his daughter, he rarely has less than 10 people in his house at any time. He uses his home as a support system to help others pursue their dreams and ambitions. It's a theme encapsulated in the South African term Ubuntu, which refers to the interconnectedness of all of life and the responsibility inherent in our connection. I think it's similar to a term Jessica and I are familiar with from living in Hawaii. That's ohana, meaning we're all family and we're all one. I'm very excited to talk with Alan about relationships, about our interconnectedness with one another, about simple ways we can improve our relationships, and how working on ourselves helps our relationship, which in turn helps us. Of course, I also want to talk about why we should put on the oxygen mask first before we help others, and why yes is the best word of them all. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Welcome to the show, Alan. Are you ready to shine?
Absolutely, Michael. Ready to shine brightly.
Woohoo! Well, thank you so much for joining us. So as I dive into things here, and it really seems like you know a thing or two about relationships, have you always had success with relationships?
Oh, no. I was very shy. I didn't do too well with people at all. And let me tell you a little bit of story about that. My father was a musician, and he made music for the movies. Mm-hmm. And he came home one night for dinner. He said, "My fellow musicians are totally unsociable." We said, "Well, how'd you prove that?" He said, "Well, I stood during a break, and I stood against the wall, and nobody came up and talked to me." So, if you cross your arms and you stare into space, no one's going to come up and talk to you. And that's kind of the modeling I had. So I had to learn by trial and error, lots of errors, on how to get along with people well.
So when did that begin? When did you start that trial and error process? Because I think when you first went to school, you were pretty nervous.
Oh, absolutely. I probably started in my mid-20s because I got a law degree, and I was practicing law, and I was afraid to talk to new clients. I just scared all the time of being rejected. And to this day, Michael, I hate rejection of any kind. And so it's really important to me to get people involved and to have good relationships.
I'm remembering one of my early jobs that I had. It was when I was in college, and I was calling people about financial services. And I remember, you're just supposed to dial, speak to the person, find out, then dial the next one. I think after my first call, I put my head in the freezer because my face had turned so beet red and it was flushed.
Well, I was told about a real estate broker who went out to solicit listings to list homes for sale. And he would walk up to the front door and he would knock and he'd say, "I hope they're not home. I hope they're not home."
Oh, no. Intention. I bet they weren't home.
Yes.
So talk to me about relationships then specifically. And did you have any relationships in your life, important relationships? I'm leading the witness. Of course, I read the book.
Yes.
Before you met your current wife.
Oh, yes, absolutely. As I say in People Tools, I've been married 3 times, and I was married actually when I was 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And after my first 2 marriages broke up, I'm thinking, what am I doing wrong? And I thought about it and I figured it out. I was so afraid of women that if I asked a woman out and she said yes, and then she really liked me, I would just ignore everything else and really go after her.
Wow, so this explains, you have a really powerful section of the book. So the book is filled with tools. Tool number 1, tool number 48, and everywhere in between. You have a really powerful one that's talking about core values.
Yes.
Things that you cannot, everything else you can compromise, but not on these key things. So what you're saying is before that second relationship ended, you were completely throwing those out the window for women.
Yes, absolutely. I would try to bend myself into a pretzel to please them, and turned out not pleasing myself, and that's not a good way to have a relationship.
I have done exactly the same thing.
Yes.
And trying to make that square peg a round hole is heartache. And then if it doesn't work out, as sad as it is, in some ways, it's for the benefit of you for the long run, which is really strange to say. But now, you talk about in your book these core values. Can you give me an example or two?
Oh, sure. Core values. Well, one is smoking, for example. Mm-hmm. I don't smoke. I lived with a woman for 3 years who did smoke, and I'll tell you, I wouldn't ever do that again. I would not compromise. A core value is something that is so important that you're just not willing to compromise. And I realized, like drinking, if a woman drinks a lot, that's not okay with me. Being nice to people, just as a general rule.
Yeah.
I lived with one woman who actually I wrote about in the last chapter of the book about love. And the first time she answered the phone at my house, she picked up the phone and she said, "What do you want?"
Oh, no.
It's my phone. They're probably calling for me. I said, when you pick up the phone, smile and be friendly. It's really important.
So when you met your current wife, and you guys have been married now 35 years, did you actually sit down and have the talk of what's important to you, what's important to me? Because I know one of the things that you mentioned that she said to you was, "I am not going to cook."
Yes, we did. And in fact, to the point where when I asked her to marry me, she said, "I want you to know, I don't cook." I said, "Well, I guess that's what restaurants are for." And true to her word, she doesn't cook much, but she's great in many, many and most other respects. But it really is important. The important things in life: how many children do you want? Where do you want to live? I know a man that I worked with when I was in the Pete Marwick, the accounting firm, and he said he got married when he was after his first year in law school. And he came back from the honeymoon, and his wife said, "Oh, by the way, I quit my job. I expect you to support us." He said, "I'm going to law school. I have 2 years to go. You were." She said, "No, that's the way it is." Well, I think that's a core value. Who's going to support the family?
Yeah.
And at that particular time, that marriage didn't last too long. So, in a sense, Michael, we all tend to engage in what I think of as courtship behavior. You meet someone new, you want to impress them, so you want to agree with them as much as possible. My wife tells a story. Another woman was married, and immediately after the ceremony, as soon as the minister said, "Pronounce you man and wife," she said, "Now I don't have to go on your darn boat anymore."
Oh, that sank the boat.
Yes, that's a time when you think about abandoning ship, which is another chapter in People Tools. But essentially, I'm saying be real, including to start with, because then you don't have to worry about bad surprises.
I think that's really important. And when we start dating, we get excited about knowing somebody. We're willing to throw out initially a lot of who we are. Oh yeah, if you don't like hiking, for instance, and they say, well, I'm a city person, or vice versa, I guess. You
Yeah.
love hiking, they're a city person, and you go, oh
Yep.
no, I don't need to hike. You get in a lot of
Absolutely.
trouble.
Absolutely. I think you have to have a lot of common values. And, if my wife wanted to go hiking every weekend, it would not be with me very often. So I totally agree.
So you have a chapter in the book, My Many and Only.
Yes.
And there were several people who I thought I might end up married to myself. I had one fiance before I met my current wife, and she disappeared after my near-death experience, which was fascinating, odd, and very thankful. What does it mean, my many and only?
Well, Michael, when I was growing up, it was clear there's one woman out there for me, and my job is to find her and
Yep.
get married and live happily ever after. And there's only one. You got to find the right one. Now, the problem with that way of thinking is, well, first of all, it's wrong. I think any of us could be perfectly happy with any one of thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
But secondly, that means that if it doesn't work out, what was the problem? I chose the wrong woman. So I go out and choose better. And, I have a chapter in People Tools. You've got to be the right person, and don't expect to be rescued by your wife, your husband, whatever. And so I just know that you can be happy with many people, and you should go at it from that perspective.
So I think this is extremely important. It's something when I'm coaching and working with others, and it's a relationship issue. I'm always saying, or somebody's looking for the right person, I say stop looking for the right person and try to be the best you that you can be. Is that what you mean by be the right person?
Exactly. And that way you give yourself the opportunity to shine,
Mm-hmm.
and you give your partner the opportunity to shine, to be who he or she really is. And that's just great all the way around.
So it's working on building up who you are, and you attract almost by default that person because
Yes.
you're shining so bright.
Yes, exactly.
So what would you say then for people out there, they've read your book and they're working on shining themselves bright and they want to meet that special someone? What's the most important piece of advice you would give them?
I would say make yourself available and do activities that you like. So in other words, if you like hiking, join the Sierra Club, go on hikes. If you like scuba diving, whatever it is you like, participate. Now, you may want to, when I was single after my first marriage broke up, I enjoyed chess. I went to chess tournaments. I'll tell you something, Michael. Not very many women play chess, and those that do are a little bit funny. So
No.
I found it more productive to go to psychology workshops, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Many more women there. So go where the type of people you want to meet are, and participate and enjoy yourself.
I think you have a story in there about going to a singles club of some sort, and the competitive nature in there, and you played the game differently, it sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah, I went to, when I was single, I went to singles workshops. There was one near where I live every Friday night. And most guys who went would try to accumulate as many telephone numbers as possible, and, 5 women, 7 women. And first of all, I was too shy to do that. I'm not going to, it's tough enough to ask one woman for her phone number or contact information. So I went with first the idea of having a nice evening. My primary goal was not to meet somebody, it was to have a nice evening. And if I saw a woman that I felt I would like to date, then I would ask her for her contact information, but only one. And if she said no, I wouldn't ask anybody else. That gave me the ability to focus on the here and now, how I felt, and also to give a message to the woman that, I'm not here playing the field and you're just, a piece of meat, and, it's like a meat market. I just don't like to be treated that way. You have to treat your partner or everyone as if they're really special to you. And I think that's quite important.
Oh, that's something you talk about in the book, and you talk about being fully present with that individual. And that was a very powerful section of the book to me. Can you share more what that means to be present with someone?
Yes. Yeah, I have a chapter in People Tools, attention must be paid.
Yes.
And very often when we have a relationship, we start taking it for granted because it's not new, it's predictable, which I find very nice because I like predictability.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to train yourself to pay attention all the time. Pay attention to your partner's needs, what's going on, how they might feel. And you know the cues. You come home from work and, say your wife is just being unusually quiet. Well, that indicates something. And
danger.
You really should pay attention to it. And because I think it's especially important when your partner has a problem or some disaster, that's when it's really important to be there. And so I try to make it a point to always pay attention to what's going on in every relationship.
There's a woman we interviewed a few weeks back, Robin Benincasa. She has a book, How Winning Works, and she's a Eco Challenge world champion, team events, climb to top mountains and stuff. And she said, people don't usually remember what you say on a day-to-day basis, but when they're at their lowest moment, they remember every single word that you tell them.
Absolutely. Well, my daughter Sarah, who wrote the introduction for People Tools for Love and Relationships, had that kind of an experience. She had been going with a guy for about 3 years, and one day Sarah's out in her front porch. Her dog is chasing squirrels. A dog who everybody loved races out in the street. Car comes around the corner, hits the dog, and the dog died in my daughter's arms on the way to the pet hospital. Now, her boyfriend was scheduled to go on a 4-day camping trip with other people. And he went anyway. And this was a moment of real crisis for her. And she felt that he didn't care enough to cancel his plans and to comfort her. And their relationship didn't last too much longer. So, it's important, really important to be there. Even though you may not like going to hospitals or whatever, it's important to be there when it's really important to your partner or to your friends.
I couldn't agree more. That moment is sacred. It's sacred between you.
Absolutely. You bet.
Switching gears slightly and talking about sacred, can you talk a bit about what I believe ended your first marriage? Because there's such a powerful lesson in there about being with the one you're with.
Yes. And I will say, also in relationships, it can change, because I met my first wife when we were both 16 years old in high school, and we went together, and we were married at 21. And actually, we got along fine. We have 3 children, and the marriage was very good. And then about 7 years into it, we started fighting about something, and as you were saying, I don't even remember the content, but it was the same fight over and over. And after 3 years, one night I had something went off in my head. And I said to myself, this woman is going to be the same way on this for the rest of her life. And then I said to myself, is that okay with me? And I said, no, it's just not okay. And I left and really never looked back. So in a relationship, I think it's important to give it a good shot and really try to resolve your differences. Because if you don't know how to work on your differences, then you're going to have the same problem in every successive relationship. So if you learn how to work on it, all your relationships, including the one you're in now, can go better. But if it's over, it's over. Sometimes you can't, how long are you going to fight it?
So how do you tell then what is us? Because in the book, one of the big themes is look in the mirror first.
Yes.
But couldn't it, like you're saying, be the other person as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I have a chapter in People Tools about mind reading.
Oh, no.
Well, I grew up with the idea that if they really loved me and you really knew me and you really cared, then you would know what I want without my having to say anything. Or what I don't. That doesn't work too well.
You want a cup of water.
Absolutely. So, sometimes people ask me, when do you want this? I said, well, really, I wanted it before I even asked you for it. But, okay. And, I have another chapter too. It's okay to ask. And, in my family growing up, my father didn't like to say no. So when you asked him for something that he wasn't going to do, he got very angry, because that way you learn that maybe you better not ask, and he didn't have to say no. Bad idea in relationships.
See, that one, I think it's actually tool number 8. I've got a few of them listed down by number. Yep. Is it safe? And I found that one extremely powerful, because when your dad would say, as a defensive mechanism, no,
yes,
then you learned it's not safe to ask.
Yes.
And that affected you for years, but then you did some retooling for your daughter.
Yes, absolutely. And absolutely, on the is it safe? I think this is important to know, that we all want to be safe. We recognize inherently that the world is kind of dangerous. You can be hit by a bus at any moment, or something can go wrong with your body, and we want to be safe. And sometimes we're not clear and direct about it. I was watching the movie many years ago called The Marathon Man, and the hero, I think it was Dustin Hoffman, or fine actor, he's in the dental chair, and the villain is going to pull his teeth out and inflict pain, and the villain keeps saying, "Is it safe? Is it safe?" And the hero doesn't know what he's talking about. And the villain really was talking about, is it safe to go to my safe deposit box and pull out the diamonds, or is it being watched? And my point is that we often give the message or ask the question, is it safe, indirectly. And I think it's important in any relationship to be attuned to your partner, and to make yourself and the world as safe as you possibly can for them.
I love reading that section. It's something I've been working on personally myself. When I get into my work, and whether that's writing, preparing for an interview, and I dive in deep, it's hard for me to switch gears if somebody says, "Can I speak with you now?" And years ago, not too long ago, if somebody asked me, "Is it all right?" even if it's my wife, maybe especially if my wife, maybe, "No, can't you see?" And
yes.
And now I've learned to breathe deep into that. And I'm still working at it. I'm much better, but I'm a work in progress. Yep. And I've got some years in front of me of molding here, but of saying to myself, this is a training experience. So the wiring, it's hard. It's like trying to jam the train onto a different railroad tracks. But the more I do it, the faster I can switch. And for her heart, if I can say yes, even when it's screaming inside of me, "No, not now," I win big points.
Yes, absolutely. And, it's a very good point you made, because each of us does have the ability to change and do it better. And in my first chapter, the secret is you. And too many people feel that the world does things to them and I have no control. And I say it's exactly the opposite. Whatever you can imagine or dream and work toward, you can accomplish. And the secret is you, and that's why if you read People Tools and get 2 or 3 really good ideas, you can change. And so often in a relationship, we always blame the other person. I'm perfect and you're just doing things wrong. And the other person thinks the same thing about me. Well, I think that we acknowledge that and be the best person we can be in a relationship, and realize that we do have an influence.
One of the things that Jessica and I talk about this often, particularly we have a great friend of ours who says, "I will know when I meet the right person, because it will be all perfect, and it will be in love, and it will just be this most perfect experience." And we love him so much, and we're going, uh-oh, because we view a relationship as actually your partner is your most difficult, challenging mirror.
Yes, absolutely. I must admit, Michael, when my wife and I go to weddings and we see the happy couple and everything is wonderful, and since we've been around a long time, we've seen many marriages not work out too well.
Yeah.
And these people, they're in love, it's wonderful, but you have to remember it's not going to be that way every single day of your life. Mm-hmm. And dealing with the hard times is just very, very important. And dealing with a relationship. So
I think it can make you, I'm sure you would agree, it makes you stronger. It makes you, it really does. It's not so much that the other partner is quote unquote changing you, but like I say with Jessica, she's always challenging me to be a better me that I can be.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully Jessica's also supportive of you. And, you know, I in terms of raising children, I read a lot of books on that and have a degree in counseling. And I read one book with the title, Catch Them Being Good.
Oh, I love it.
And, you know, when somebody does something you like, you praise the heck out of them. And in People Tools for Love and Relationships, I wrote, you know, catch them being better. Now, sometimes, you know, my wife does, she's late. And then one time she shows up on time. Now, I am so tempted. See, it's about time. I criticize
Oh, no, that'd be the reverse.
Doing what I wanted. Bad idea.
Yeah.
Bad idea. Don't let your accumulated dissatisfaction come out in that way. Tell them, darling, this is great. I'm so glad that you're here and we can do this. That's wonderful.
I think that's it's an awesome parenting skill too, because you catch a child doing something right, and you just made their universe.
Exactly. Children want to please their parents, absolutely. And it's a parent's job to be pleased and to praise the kid. You know, my dad thought that if he praised me, I would get a big head and think I didn't have to work anymore. And I used to treat people that way and be very, very critical. And it doesn't get you many brownie points. And what people learn is, what they learned was to avoid me because I was often critical. And now I'm very supportive. If I want something changed, I will say so, but in a supportive way. Or what do I have to do to get you to do whatever? And that way they're a participant in that project. So
honey over vinegar.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So you have a fascinating one of these examples of you found a really, really creative solution. I love it. You have a different watch that you wear, internal watch, than your wife. And so your concept of time are a little bit different, a little bit more fluid, one more than the other. And you found a workaround that I thought was brilliant. And I guess it could have gone either way, but can you share with us about that?
Absolutely. You know, my mom was my parent, so my mother was almost always late. And they would arrive at my house for dinner or whatever. And the first 20 minutes, my dad was yelling at my mom for being late yet again. And I decided I wasn't going to run my life that way, period. I wasn't going to fight about it. So I said to my wife, I said, look, when we're going to go somewhere at 7 at night, that's the time. You got a 10-minute buffer, and at 7:10, if you're not ready, I will be free to go myself. And you have your own car, you can come or not come, but I'm not going to get upset by it. And you know, Michael, one time we were going to a play, and it was 10 after 7, and my wife rushes in, and I'll just be a few minutes. I said, no, it's 7:10, I'm going. Well, then I'm not going to go. I said, whatever you want. And so I went with my daughter. We were at the play, and a few minutes before the curtain went up, my wife arrives and was looking good, and everything was fine. And I'm saying that, you know, don't have an issue that you are always going to fight about. And I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. I like to be on time. Some people have a different relationship, and they're always 10 minutes late or whatever. If you're not going to change it, don't fight about it and learn how to get along with the situation, because nobody is going to be perfect in my eyes, and I'm not going to be perfect in anybody other eyes also.
You have another chapter, kind of segues perfectly with this, which is the best defense is often no defense.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is so important. I read a book years ago called "Do I Have to Give Up Me to Be Loved by You?"
Uh-oh.
And it's very interesting. I found out the woman author I went to elementary school with. We were in the third grade together. And the central point of that book is when you have an argument with your significant other,
Yeah.
When my wife, for example, wants something different from me or criticizes me, I can either have an intent to defend. In other words, I can tell her, no, I didn't do that, or yeah, I did it and I was right and you're wrong and want to change her. I can argue with her. Or I can have an intent to learn and find out what's really behind what she wants different and not fight about it. It's so important. I read a news story years ago about a South Korean airplane that crashed.
Yeah.
And apparently in South Korea, there's a hierarchy. And so the co-pilot knew there was a problem, but he wasn't, in his culture, he wasn't going to criticize the pilot and say, hey, you're doing it wrong, we're going to crash. And because of that, the plane crashed. So it's so important to be open and communicate and not criticize people. I thank them for helping me to correct a mistake I made.
Well, I think it gets at the big picture goal. Just as the big picture goal is let's not crash the plane, the big picture goal, I don't think for anyone is to win in their relationship. Because if you win, you lost.
Absolutely. The relationship is the important thing, not what you do any given day or evening. And you both have to feel that the other person really hears you. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing that turns me off more than someone arguing with me. I say, I'd like you to buy some of this when you go to the market. And they say, well, that's bad for you. You shouldn't be eating that. Hey, I'm a grown up. I get to eat as many potato chips as I want. So, you've got to have an intent to learn from the other and be supportive.
And on that note, I think it's a lot of it is sharing of energy. Just as that potato chip is not so bad if you're doing it with loving kindness to yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's sort of like we've probably both read about cigarette smokers who mm-hmm. have lived extraordinarily long lives despite mm-hmm. the odds because they were so positive and upbeat and I don't know if we'd say filled with love and joy in their lives. So,
yes.
Talking about that, I want to talk about maybe the most positive word out there. And I love you go for it in the book because it's actually part of the title of one of my favorite movies, which is Yes Man.
I think yes is so important. And I intentionally have trained myself to have a bias in favor of saying yes, mm-hmm. especially with my children. I always want to say yes unless I have a darn good reason not to. And yes brings people together. It's a validation. It just feels good. So if I say, Michael, let's go to this movie, you say yes, that feels great. Woohoo! Even if you don't want to go to the movie, mm-hmm. if your first response is positive, Michael, I'd love to go to that movie with you. Oh, darn, I have something else on my calendar or whatever. But a positive response, it doesn't mean, some people think that when they say yes, they're trapped. It's a trap. And like I decided years ago, often a friend will say, Alan, I'd like you to do me a favor. I always say, yes, I'd be happy to. Now, if they say, I want to borrow $1 million, well, maybe I'm not going to do them that favor. In 50 years, I've said yes every time, and no one has asked me for something I wasn't willing to do. So just being positive and welcoming is vital to make all your relationships, really, really good.
I love it. So let's segue into a really big yes, a warm and comforting, embracing yes. Cuddles.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I've found that I think physical contact for me is very important. And my second wife kind of wasn't used to that, like holding hands, walking down the street, or I put my arm around her. And at first she was a little suspect because, people just don't do that. And her family, I guess they didn't. But after about 6 months, she started to like it. And I think that physical contact gives us a message that I accept you, I like you, I like to be next to you. And there's like going to sleep at night. There's nothing like cuddling and falling asleep holding each other. I look forward to that. That's the highlight of my day.
I think that human contact, whether it's with kids, especially with kids and infants and anyone, and even a handshake, or I'm known to just hug someone on the streets,
Yes,
which can shock somebody.
that's true.
So
But you also have to remember that a lot of people like equate a physical touching with being sexual, and that's not necessarily the case at all. I hug lots of people, and it's not sex. It's just a hug, and it's being friendly, and it feels good in and of itself. My office, we hug good morning most days, and hug goodbye at night, and it really adds to the whole ambience.
that's awesome.
And yeah, it's just super.
My wife knows that for myself, if I get in a little bit of a funk,
Mm-hmm.
the best thing that she can do is we had watched this movie years ago. I'm going to space the name of it. It's about an amazing autistic woman who became a professor at Colorado State University, designed chutes for cattle and Temple Grandin. And Temple Grandin used to have this device that would hug her, like hugging a cow at a chute, that would make her feel better if she got in a panic situation. And my wife found, in a similar vein, if she just scratched the back of my neck just a little bit, I'd be like, oh, I'm concerned about this. I've got that going on. I've got the other. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Ah, putty.
Yes, yes. But Michael, that reminds me of something. It was so weird. In my first marriage, when I was driving, sometimes my wife would reach over and stroke the back of my neck, and I really liked it. And for some reason, I have this idea that if I turned my head, she would stop. So I'd be driving, just moving my eyes and not moving my head. I never thought to say, honey, I really like that. I'm going to have to move my head a little bit to drive, but please keep on doing it.
I get it. I'd be afraid to say anything for fear it feels so good. I don't want her to stop.
Right. Well, there's another thing. I have a chapter in People Tools for love and relationships. It's okay to ask. Because my father responded so negatively toward being asked something he'd want to do, we learned it. It's not okay to ask. And I've had to train myself. It is okay to ask. It's okay to say no if somebody asks. That's okay. But it is. I never punish people for asking. It's perfectly okay to ask.
It's interesting on this show. We've had to ask for a lot of guests to come on the show, and the responses have been overwhelmingly positive. But I asked one guest who is a top podcaster out there, and he has his name's Scott. He has a podcast, Motivation to Move. He had like the #1 self-help podcast for years. I'm like, would you like to come on the show? And when he came on the show, he said, I came on the show because you asked. So few people, almost nobody, actually ask me.
Interesting. Yeah. It's an acknowledgement when you ask someone that says a lot of things. It says, I like you. I think you'd be valuable. I want to spend time with you. So, asking takes a risk. But that's another thing, Michael. When I was a kid, I wanted to get a girl to love me. I was probably 13 or 14. I didn't really even know what love was. And I read books and did research. And I found one sentence in one book which said, if you want someone to love you, love them first.
Amen.
And I've always done that. I've always said I love you first. It's taking a risk. Absolutely. I can say to a woman, I love you, and she can start laughing and say, oh my God, please, no. But someone's got to take a risk. Mm-hmm. And I find it better to take a risk. The old saying, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And I think putting yourself out there, you will be open and you'll get a lot more in every relationship by being willing to take a risk.
That makes perfect sense, and I think having in a sense, it's just another chapter of your book, healthy expectations,
yes,
or even a lack of expectations. You have a formula. Can you share with us that formula?
Absolutely, yes. The formula is her. Here's the deal.
Okay.
what pleases us is getting what we want. But if our expectations are too high, then we're disappointed if what we get doesn't meet our expectation. So
in the book, you talk about somebody getting, what was it, $30,000 if they expected $100,000, or
right. Yeah, if you have a wealthy uncle who's dying, and you expect to get 100,000 and you only get 70,000 from the estate, you're going to be disappointed. Whereas if you don't have a high expectation, if you say, well, if he leaves me something, fine, if not, fine, and you get 30,000, it's a lower amount, but you're happier with it. And the purpose of life, as far as I'm concerned, is to enjoy it. So take your expectations, and as in a relationship, I don't expect it to be fun and games and wonderful every single minute. So you have to allow for the fact that there are going to be ups and downs. And if I go to a concert, some of the songs are my favorites and I love them. Other songs I don't like so much, but that's okay. So my expectation is that I will enjoy some of the songs and most of the concert, not necessarily all of it. And that way I'm happier. I enjoy myself more.
This reminds me of the story that you share about not liking to go to weddings.
Yes. Well, that's true. I don't like to go to parties where I don't know people.
Okay.
My wife is very social.
I don't either. I'm outgoing, but
yes. And my wife, very sociable, has lots of friends. And before we were married, we made an agreement. I said, I will go to one wedding every 3 years, just because you want me to. Mm-hmm. Other than that, you are free to go to the weddings yourself. And actually, it's worked out well. And in fact, I have one wedding I met a guy, and we did some business deals, and golly, one of the best contacts I ever made. And that was my one wedding in 3 years. So it can work out. But that way you can have an agreement that met my wife's needs to accompany her sometimes and meet my need of not going to a stranger's wedding every other week.
Going, hi, I don't know you, but congratulations.
Right.
So talking about you met this stranger, you ended up discussing finances, something amazing came out of that. I think it's a really important topic that you talk about, parents don't talk about with their kids. I remember it was an important theme when I read years ago, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Which is something most kids don't get from their parents, is a discussion of finances. And so finances in a relationship almost, I don't know about always, but it becomes a time bomb.
Yes. Well, that's true. And in most families, parents aren't willing to talk about money with their children. Mm-hmm. And one of the women who worked for me years ago, she was my assistant. She was terrific. And she'd been married about 2 or 3 years, and they went to buy a house. And she found out her husband's credit was absolutely horrible. So instead of getting a 6% interest loan, they had to pay 10%. She never knew that. They didn't talk about it. Yeah. And with money, I met a woman once, and I'm in business. I have to know the cost of things, what salaries. So this woman just got a new job, and I said, well, what's your salary? And she said, Alan, I wouldn't even tell my mother that. I said, I won't tell your mother either. So she learned. And she told me. And the point of it is, if you're comfortable talking about money, mm-hmm. and even if you're not comfortable, then it's even more important to talk about it, because how do you know? And many couples, they don't know how much each other earn. They don't know what they can afford. So I think money is too important not to talk about. The book I wrote before, People Tools for Love and Relationships, is People Tools for Finance, and I talk about that kind of stuff. But it's one time my second wife said, Alan, I think my parents need financial help. I said, okay, why do you think that? Well, it's just a feeling. Well, how much do they have in the bank? I don't know. What did your father earn? I don't know. I said, why do you? That's just a feeling. I said, did you talk to them? She said, no. You talk to them. So I talked to her parents. They're doing okay. They had no problems. So in her family, it was just kind of by, mind reading again. And
what have you taught your kids then about, as they were growing up? What were you teaching them? What were you talking to them about money?
I always talk to my kids about money. When my kids were as young as 4 or 5 years old, mm-hmm. I would give them each a certain amount of money to invest, and it was up to them. I talked to them about the stock market and loans and various things they could invest in. And actually, at age 5, 6, 7, 8, they were making investments and seeing the result of it. And it was it was a nice bonding experience, because I'm kind of a numbers and financially minded guy, but also dealing with kids and seeing their excitement. And that's how you learn. You learn from other people or books or whatever. You've got to talk to your family about money. I think it's crucial, and do it in a supportive way.
I love it. And this kind of segues. Jessica always wants me to ask a question about kids and parenting. And so she gave me the question to ask of what's the most important thing parents can teach their kids about relating to other people?
I think it's to be positive and listen. In other words, like I made it a point when I was dating, on a first date, I would ask a lot of questions and listen. And it's amazing. At the end of the date, my date would say, "You are so interesting." I'm interesting because I listened to you and I learned a lot about you. And, if they want to ask me questions, that's great. But I think listening to, showing respect to other people, I think we know it within seconds of meeting each other. And so I think showing respect, being happy, and letting people know you like them.
Beautiful, beautiful. So what would you say are the 3 most important key takeaway pieces of advice you would give to people about relationships?
Well, if I were to limit it to 3, and there are 50 chapters, that's okay. I think first is...
And we have at least 48 in here.
Well, I think first is to realize that it's you. You have the ability to make your relationships work or work better. And just take responsibility, and then the power is yours. And then you're not a victim, floating in the ocean somewhere. So I think that's very important. I think, as we discussed, not being defensive and being open to your partner is very important. And then I think, catch them being good, catch them doing things that you like. I learned that I was in a course in school, and I grew up in an opposite. My father always criticized. He never praised. And so I told the professor, "You're wrong. That doesn't work." He said, "Well, why don't you try it? Do an experiment. When your wife cooks something you really like, praise the heck out of her." And I happen to like sweet sour meatballs, so next time she made it, I praised her. She started making it more often. I got more of what I wanted. So I think in relationships, it's very important to catch them being good.
I love that. And on that note, with your dad's still around. He's over 100 years young at this point.
Yes.
He's, I imagine, still driving around at least a few times a week. He's living on his own.
Yes.
What has been his secret, or how have you seen him? It seems like he must have changed. Something must have shifted in him to be living this vibrantly at 100.
My father has totally changed. He is very positive. When my wife and I go to a movie, I'll call him up and say, "Dad, would you like to go to this movie?" And he says, "Sure." We go to the movie, and ask him after the movie, I said, "Dad, how'd you like the movie?" He will always say, "Alan, I really enjoyed being with you. This was really nice." And that's not the way he was 30 or 40 years ago, because he knows that if he was critical and said, "Why'd you take me to this movie? This was terrible. I hated it," I wouldn't ask him again. So he has learned. He is so positive, and it's just a treat for me to see that. And at age 101, he turned 101 a few weeks ago. My dad's really enjoying his life, and I tell him, "I hope you live to be 150, because it's your genes, and you're setting the example for me." So it's really very, very nice. We have a very positive relationship.
A good bar, and it's hard to go down that negative direction if you've got somebody like that leading the way.
Absolutely, Michael. Absolutely.
So at this point, I'd like to ask, before we wrap things up, a question I'd like to ask everyone, which is, what gives you the greatest happiness, or what I call the woohoo factor?
What gives me the greatest happiness and woohoo is helping other people. I have a foundation, and I've gotten a lot of kids as young as 6 years old, involved in philanthropy, helping other people. What really excites me is helping people and having them get a better life and get a better job and enjoy their relationships more. It gives me a lot of pleasure to see that.
Well, that does get another woohoo!
Absolutely. Woohoo!
I love it. So, any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience?
Well, I have one word of wisdom, and that's smile. I used to think that you smiled because you were happy. Scientific research indicates that when you smile, just turn the corners of your mouth up, it creates endorphins in the brain, and you feel happier. So, if I have one word of advice, smile as much as you possibly can.
I think I do sometimes a better job than others, but I think I need to put a sticky note on my computer monitor with just a giant smiley face saying smile. So,
absolutely. I used to have a smiley face on my checks, and somebody said, "Your check, you're spending money, you have a smile on it?" I said, "Yes. I'm happier getting whatever I'm getting than I was having the money." So it's a happy experience.
My legal signature used to be Michael Smiley Face Sandler. And, after signing, a few dozen thousand books, it got a lot shorter. It still got the smiley face in it.
I think that's terrific. Absolutely.
So that way you're sharing with each transaction. You're giving a little bit of that smile and happy drug.
Yes.
So
yes.
Where can people go to find out more and to find your book?
Okay. Well, People Tools for Love and Relationships, and also I have two other books, People Tools and People Tools for Business, available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, most bookstores throughout the United States, and we just came out, so I'm expecting that you can do it virtually anywhere. I like online personally because it's so easy. But at any rate, and also. My website is peopletoolsbook.com. I have a weekly blog, and I give advice on the blog, and it's fun to read. So peopletoolsbook.com. Look me up there.
Fantastic. And we'll put all those links on our website as well. So if people don't remember it, come to our website, inspirenationshow.com. We'll have links. We'll have a summary of this as well. And we can get you over to his website. Also a link to get your books as well. And at a future date, it would be fun to have you back to talk about money and prosperity. Something I think we could all use a little bit of advice.
Yes, absolutely, Michael. I'd love to do that.
Fantastic. Well, Thank you so much for being on the show. For everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get your people tools for love and relationships, and shine bright. Woohoo!
Woo! Thank you. It's been a treat.
Thank you. This has been a true honor and a joy. It was so much fun spending this time with you. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!